Hi, everyone. Thanks for spending your lunch hour with us. I am Michelle Major. I'm an impact lead at Homeless Network Scotland, and I'm joined by my colleague Jeremy, who's giving you a big thumbs up there, who is one of our associates at Homeless Network Scotland as well. And we're just here to spend a wee bit of time talking about what we've learned in terms of participation and service design and delivery. So just a little bit about who we are before we get into it. So Homeless Network Scotland are the national membership body for organisations and people who are committed to a Scotland without homelessness. We convene and support our network to connect, learn and act on homelessness, and we provide a platform for people who want to share their own experiences and to influence change, which is probably the bit of most interest to most of you just now. We also have a social enterprise arm of the organisation called We Are All In, which delivers long-term learning partnerships, bespoke training and consultancy services across all professional sectors. And sorry, I just have to keep moving you around your faces. Maybe I'll just have to make everyone small. Okay. So over the past decade, we've really focused in on participation and co-production and put a lot of resource and learning into trying to develop the platform that we provide for people to use their lived experience to influence change. So some of the things that we've done and the doing of that over the last 10 years are facilitating large and small scale conversations with people to inform and design practice and policy. Current homelessness plan that the Scottish Government have published and are following is informed by one of those large-scale conversations that we facilitated with over 400 people with experience of homelessness in Scotland. We support people with lived experience to deliver citizen advocacy. We have trained and supported people to be equal partners in local authority tendering and alliancing, most recently through a big sort of service design process in Glasgow, where a group of people with lived experience informed and influenced how the outreach services for Glasgow would change in the future, which was incredible. We've also established the All In for Change team, which is a Scottish Government funded team of people with frontline experience of homelessness, so forward-facing roles, and people with lived experience of homelessness, which acts as a feedback loop between people quite high up in Scottish Government to help them understand how well their plans are being implemented in reality. We have also trained and supported a team to design and deliver their own participatory action research project and facilitated place-based participation where we involved local people in participatory budgeting in 3 areas of Glasgow. So quite a lot of different projects and different scales of participation over the last decade, and I'm happy but also giving my age away to admit that I was part of all those things over the last decade. So just what we really try and do is reflect a lot about what we've learned from that and what we could encourage other people to take from that. We have also, the biggest lesson that decade has taught us is that people already have a voice and what we can offer as a platform. Yep. Quite often you hear people talking about, oh, we want to give people a voice, we want to give, you know, and that's just not the case. People absolutely have that already. What they sometimes need a bit of support to do is to find the right platform to make sure that their voice is heard by the people who can actually implement some change based on what they're saying. So just some lessons that we've had to learn to offer a platform in the right way. We needed to learn how to offer genuine choice and a range of opportunities to inspire people. We needed to learn to challenge power dynamics to ensure that everyone had an equal status for their insights, perspectives, and experiences. Because like most groups that people talk about, people experiencing homelessness are not a homogenous group, and often come with lots of different experiences of homelessness and different challenges that they've faced and different strengths that we want to make sure that we can really capitalise on and make sure that we're channeling the right way. We needed to learn how to build shared understanding of the way forward and balance putting people first with ideas of traditional sort of efficiency. And most importantly, we had to learn to start where we were. What our hope is today is that for those of you who are interested in maybe including more participation in your service design, or just looking to maybe think a bit more about what you currently do to involve people with lived experience, that maybe you'll be able to learn from some of the lessons that we've had to learn from over a number of years. And maybe we can save you a little bit of time. So first of all, about offering genuine choice and a range of opportunities to inspire people. And this sounds very, very obvious, but people are very different and they get involved in participatory work for lots of different reasons. So the big thing for us was understanding how to make sure that what we could offer was varied enough that it could meet the different aspirations of the people who want to get involved with us. So some people want to talk and listen and share their stories and learn from other people's stories, and some people definitely don't want to do that. Some people are really big on ideas but don't have a lot of time. Some people have loads and loads of time to commit to something and they're quite happy for that to be someone else's idea.
Some people are really into research, doing research, looking into research, creating awareness. Yeah, there's a lot involved in it.
Absolutely. One thing that we have really noticed is that a lot of people want to develop brand new skills and have new experiences, as well as building on the things that they already know that they're good at, and using experiences that they've already had. One thing that really helps us to do that well is understanding that getting to know people is really important. So to understand what they really want and get them involved in a meaningful way that's not only meaningful for the organisation, but meaningful for the people as individuals. It's really, really important that we know people. Jeremy, I don't know if there's anything you want to say about your experience of that.
Well, yeah, well, just we are get Glasgow Homeless Involvement Feedback Team. It's a branch of Homeless Network Scotland, and we are a group of people with lived experience of homelessness, and each and every single one of us are completely different people. Like, see, we all come in the room together, and we've all got different ideas. We've all got different opinions, different experiences, but we all come together, and we choose what kind of work we would like to do, and each person has got what each. So when I first started, for example, I was quite into the idea of doing advocacy work, and there was a service shutting down not far. I won't say the exact name, but it was in Govan and it was shutting down, and what I was doing is I was going in there and advocating for people, so finding out where they wanted to move on to. So because the service was shutting down, so where is it they want to move on to when the place shuts down? What problems have they faced that could be a problem for them in the future, so that they could speak to me, because I have got lived experience. So even if you don't, it doesn't really matter, but it's kind of that balance and power. It's just, it makes it feel much smoother when you can say to them that you understand, so you get much more like raw information off them. But yeah, so as a group of people, we're all completely different. So what I like to do personally is research and advocacy. There's, as I said, we're quite an equal group, male, female, all different ages. So we're quite a robust group, and we've got different job roles, I guess. So as I said, that I like to do research. There's other people who like to, for example, do online work, blogs. So yeah, that's on Gift Homeless Network, Glasgow Homeless Network Scotland.
Yeah. Thanks, Jeremy.
No problem.
I'll just move on to the next. So actually, just on the getting to know people bit, one of the things that we found was really important as well is we offer each of our associates. So Jeremy's one of our associates. We have a team of associates, which is our colleagues that have got lived experience of homelessness, and each of them have a link colleague. So on a sort of 6-weekly or more frequent, if people need it, either myself or my colleague David will meet with people one-to-one, and we'll kind of do a bit of personal development planning, learning and things like that. But actually, that's not where the getting to know people stuff comes from, and I think everybody probably understands that, but maybe doesn't always think about it in a professional context, like just how important it is to be spending that time making a coffee with somebody, to be traveling together to different places for work. Like, those relationships need to build organically, and there needs to be a level of kind of trust and respect between the person that's sort of facilitating the participation and the people that are doing the participation, if that makes sense.
Fortnightly meetings, so we come together as a group, and we discuss everything that we've been up to in the past 2 weeks. So we're always keeping each other informed and sharing each other's information, so then we're all on the same page. So that's why we hold regular meetings together, just so then we're all on that same page. We can all work together as a team efficiently.
Brilliant. Thanks, Jeremy. So our next kind of bit of learning was about challenge and power dynamics, so that everybody can feel and actually genuinely have an equal status in terms of their insights, their perspectives, and their experiences. So as much as it's my job to facilitate the participation in the platforms that we provide, those platforms don't exist without the people that take part in them. So I feel like we all have quite an equal kind of stake and desire to make that work. One of the most important things that I think that we do that helps to level out that power dynamic is that our associates are all paid workers with the organisation. And this is something that's grown over a number of years. When I first joined the organisation, I was a volunteer, and it was a volunteer team that we had at the time.
Likewise, yep.
Yep. And then over a period of time, it became clear to us that the work that people were being asked to be involved in was so much more involved than what a volunteer role would be. And also that, yeah, it just was the right thing to do, to move to a sort of paid role status. And it's not without its challenges. We had to take significant legal advice and welfare rights advice to make sure that we weren't impacting people negatively by paying them for their time. But what we do now is we pay people the real living wage, so that they can work together with other sort of paid members of staff, and everyone's paid for their work.
Yeah, and also with travel expenses as well, because even though we're a Glasgow-based charity, we do quite a lot of work outside of Glasgow as well. And like, for example, I was in Peterborough a few weeks ago. I've been at East Lothian, and each see, obviously, that I don't drive or anything, so it's we get travel expenses, so we can get to these areas like without having to worry about expenses and things like that. Plus, we get lunches, like money for lunch. So it works really smoothly. At first, when I was a volunteer, I thought it was I did it out of just like kind of a vocation kind of thing. But with the workers' role, it does. I can't say that. Well, I obviously I much prefer it, but it's we're obviously at the same time we're getting a lot of support as well. So with the link meetings, we have that opportunity to discuss anything personal. If we, because it's like one of those roles where everyone's got circumstances in their life, but if we cannot work, if we can't work, then we can say that we can't work, and our link workers will support us massively throughout whatever we're going through.
The other thing about power dynamics is we also, as I said earlier, we have the All In for Change team, which is a team of people with frontline professional experience working alongside people with lived experience. And especially with that project, it just felt so important that everybody was being paid for their time. So I'm really, it's one of the things that I'm most proud of that we've done as an organisation is make that move to having our associate team paid to work with us as an organisation. Some people also, in terms of getting that equality for different insights, people always come from different places. And with any sort of policy influence and work, it's so important that we have a really strong foundation of knowledge and understanding of a starting point and a really clear path to where we're trying to go. So people start often with how they feel. Others start with evidence or facts, and just making sure that we have time to explore all of that so that we can come to a position where nobody's feeling like their starting point's been disregarded or anything like that. It's really, really important for keeping people invested in the work as it continues. So a lot of what we do is quite long term. policy influencing work. So to keep people on board with that for sometimes years or like a year is really, really challenging if people don't all come from this same place, this same starting point, and feel equally invested in the direction of travel. Also, just in terms of empowerment, and I understand the term and why people use it, but from our point of view, like, there's nothing that I can do to empower anyone. I can't empower Jeremy, I can't empower anybody else, but what I can do and what we really strive to do at Homeless Network Scotland is to create an environment that is empowering rather than it being a kind of personal sort of task. And we do that by making sure that everybody, as Jeremy's just described so well, thank you, Jeremy, that everybody has everything they need to be able to carry out the role. So our lived experience.
So, for example, like I've got this laptop that I'm using. This is provided by the charity because I don't have the money for a laptop. Do you know what I mean? So other people don't have Wi-Fi at home, so they've got a dongle offered to them. There's just, it's
Yeah, and I think it's also just so important to say, like, that's what we would provide. That's what we provide to, you know, other people that work here. So it's just really important to us that everybody gets the same
fairness. Yeah.
tools that they need to do the job. So yes, this one, build shared understanding of the way forward. So that kind of continuing what I said a second ago, it's about prioritising those shared discussions and not underestimating how much time that takes. So you need to lay the groundwork for a shared understanding of a problem and how it can be solved. And for an issue like homelessness, which is really complex, but in lots of ways very, very simple, it's so key to do that, to make sure that we're seeing past sort of myths or self-stigmatizing beliefs that sometimes people can bring when they come to participate. So this often means that we have policymakers, practitioners, and people with lived experience in the same room taking part in the same discussion. It promotes, it's my job and my colleagues' job to kind of promote the commonalities in people's contributions to help everybody understand that we are working towards the same thing, even if we communicate it differently. And then pause and actively take time to find and share those things. It's easy, I think, to understate that. And I think for me, because I've been in this role for such a long time, a lot of it becomes just habitual, but it does actually require really careful and detailed planning so that everybody can participate meaningfully and equally and in a way that doesn't feel incredibly difficult or confrontational. Quite often in Glasgow particularly, we'll have people who are responsible for services that have sometimes in the past failed the people that are participating with us, and being able to manage that dynamic in a way that, and our associates are incredibly good at that actually, about putting personal sort of gripes and feelings that they've experienced to the side for the kind of greater good and the policy influencing that we're trying to achieve. But yeah, having that, it means that we can really join the dots between the policy, the practice, and the lived experience that people are bringing. And it's just a really great way of starting things off. I'm going to have to speed up because this has taken me a little while longer than I thought. And this point is just about balancing, putting people first with the ideas of efficiency that you might have from traditional ways of working. This type of work takes real time, and almost always much more time than you think. And it also takes real resources, and especially now that we're working with a team of people who are rightly so paid for their time, having to factor that into the work that we do now, it's always actually quite surprising to me that people would assume that you can just access people's participation and their experiences for free. Because when we cost things up, I'm always I just wish more people could see what it actually takes sometimes. But traditional approaches, and this also comes down to having really great funders and funders that understand the process that we're working through, because the way that you would traditionally do project management and looking for milestones to be achieved by certain points and reporting on KPIs and things like that, it often doesn't allow for full co-production in the way that we like to do it and in the way that we know works for our associates and for our aims and objectives. So for example, we're currently working on a piece of peer research that Jeremy's been really involved in. It's been going on for a long, long time, and it's technically overdue to our funders, but they understand the way that we work and they appreciate the way that we work. And rather than us having to sort of stop the peer involvement as we get to a report writing stage, we've been allowed the freedom to continue to have people participate in that process right through to completion. So it's really helpful to have a funder that understands the way that we work. Also, just the other thing to note here is that people, of course, bring their own life experiences with them, just like any of us do. So prioritising sort of arbitrary timescales can create risks, not just to the work, but more importantly to the people that are involved in the work. So I feel a big part of my responsibility and my role is to make sure that our associates never feel pressure in terms of deadlines or not being able to come and take part in something. I really feel it's really important that that's sort of my pressure to bear and try really, really hard to make sure that that isn't felt by anyone else. Jeremy, you probably are sitting thinking, you're not that great at that, but hopefully not.
Yeah, and everyone else agrees because there's, as I said, there's a big team office. We all have our link workers. If there's anything wrong, we just go and mention it. It's this the transparency is brilliant. So yeah.
Thank you. Okay, I think this is our last one, almost our last one. My probably strongest piece of advice to anyone who wants to do more participation in co-production is just start it. Just start where you are. If you're at the beginning of a new project or an idea, then work out how co-production, work out how to co-produce it from the start. But actually, if you've already got existing projects or programs of work, if you see an opportunity for co-production, then just take it. There's stuff about co-production and the way that we work that things have to evolve over time. So I've never started a project or a piece of work knowing what it's going to look like at the end. And that's just the nature of working in a big team, which is great. But you also have to be comfortable that it evolves and that there isn't always an obvious like day one of this is us starting. Sometimes it just kind of naturally snowballs and grows over time. But yeah, I would just say don't wait for a magic moment to start and don't wait to have everything perfect before you start because
Exactly.
you miss so many opportunities.
And you learn from each
Yeah.
mistake anyway along the way.
Absolutely. We're big into learn. In fact, there you go. Try fail again, try again, feel better. So that's kind of what I like to bear in mind when we're working in this way. And just I think this is moving my second last slide, so I will be quiet soon and we can get some chat. But one thing that people talk a lot about in terms of participation and co-production is how to avoid being tokenistic. And I think we probably all will have experience of something in our lives where we've been asked to do something and it's just felt totally tokenistic and a bit pointless and like a tick box exercise. We think about co-production and participation being done well. It should have a positive impact on the person involved, but also on at least one of the following things. So perception. So it should have a positive impact on how people perceive the issue of homelessness or the policy around homelessness, the legislation in Scotland, or the practices in homelessness in Scotland, or the place. So some of our work is quite place-based, and there are some places in Scotland where much more homelessness happens than other places. And in those places, we've went in and done some really targeted bits of work around preventing homelessness. And that was one of the examples where we could really see that positive impact, not only being on the people who were involved in that, but actually in the places where we did the work as well. Is there anything you want to say about any of that, Jeremy?
So actually, so a few, maybe 2-3 years ago, me and Michelle actually flew out to Guernsey because they've got an inequality issue and the states didn't really want to get too involved with it, so they asked us as a charity to come down and do their research basically for them, and we gathered lots and lots of research of from people with homelessness in the island of Guernsey, which in the English Channel. And we made a massive report when we got back with our findings, because we spoke to many people. We made a massive report and then sent that to the States, so that's the Guernsey Council, and that was a big bit of work about inequality. But that wasn't a token issue at all, because you're speaking to people with lived experience, and like I've got lived experience speaking to people in Guernsey, saying, listen, I've been where you've came from, just because over there, as I say, they've got a rich population, and then people missing out. So it's just a lot of them are saying that no, it's a inequality that's an issue. But being part of that work, I absolutely loved it. Like, so in terms of tokenism, I personally never felt it in my role, but I've seen it in other places, but not in my role personally.
I think also some of the work that we do is about going into services that are run by other people and doing kind of reviews on their behalf, or doing kind of service user involvement on their behalf. And when we're doing that, it's really, sometimes it's quite challenging. You do come up against people who have definitely been asked to do stuff in quite a tokenistic way in the past. And some of the ways that we try and get around that is just being very, very clear at the beginning exactly where this information is going, what it's for. And also we always incentivize people's
That's right. Mm-hmm.
So recently we've been embarking, that peer research that I spoke about earlier on, that we've been embarking on was quite involved, and we were asking people to spend an hour with our peer researchers and talk about their journey through homelessness. So we advocated really strongly that those people that took part in that should receive £50 for an hour, which actually is a great tool for getting people to want to come and talk to you. But
Definitely.
also means that you're leaving things on such a positive note. And I guess just if I could go on a tiny tangent just to talk about the difference between giving people a cash incentive as opposed to a voucher incentive for their participation. Quite often we get challenged on why are people being paid so much for their participation, and why are you giving people cash rather than a voucher for taking part in a survey. And there's been just a few things in my experience that I think are good to bear in mind. So I cannot tell you the number of times that we've been doing work in the past. I'm talking maybe 8+ years ago, when it was kind of the done thing that you would give people a voucher. And I have watched those vouchers be sold for money of lesser value than what the voucher is worth, because the voucher isn't what's going to meet people's needs. So for me, I think it's really important, if people are being paid, they should be able to access the full value of the incentive that we're trying to provide. The other thing is, when we've been doing the peer research particularly, some people have talked about what they're going to use that money for. And actually what they're using the money for is irrelevant. You know, nobody's asking me what I'm using my wages for. So I don't think that's, you know, I think in terms of equality, it's quite important that we don't ask people. But lots of people did volunteer in the information, and they said things like, oh, that means I can send a tenner to my son out of that money, or I can go and buy something out of, I think in one local authority, they quite often used farm food vouchers for people, but this one person wanted something from somewhere else and they were able to go and get it, or they were able to use the money to travel to go and visit someone. And it really struck me. And actually, after doing this work for quite a long time, not that I'm getting old and cynical, but sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, this is the same as what I've seen before. But actually hearing somebody say, this means that I can send money to my son, or it means that I've got money to go and visit my son, was just really touching. And I think I don't know that people always consider how much more powerful a cash first approach rather than a sort of voucher approach can be. So that was just sorry.
Yeah. That's okay. People would have issues with maybe like activating it online, so we would get like phone calls or like emails from people or organizations like the week after, asking us to help them to open up their vouchers online and things like that. So the logistics of it could be a bit more difficult, instead of just giving someone like £50 cash. Do you know what I mean? So it's just making it a bit more simpler for both sides, really.
Thanks, Jeremy. I think, yes, that was my last slide. So sorry if that's went on a little bit. That's actually not that bad, but
That's
just
fine.
a little bit of time for questions, comments, and any ideas. And I'm just going to stop sharing so that we can